Okay, so I don't know, it's not seeing, I don't know, well, I don't know, maybe we should, but you have the PowerPoints in there, is that right? So there are 4 different types of tissues, but our focus, you guys, is, our focus for this first exam is the animal, human. Okay, so mostly we will talk about things that are related to human, but it is true for all vertebrate animals, if you would. This is true all of vertebrate animals. So there are 4 different types of tissue, and in the lab practical exam on the microscope or a model, I will ask you what is the name of this tissue. Some of them you have to be very specific. Some of them you just can say connective tissue or nervous tissue. And as these next 2-3 weeks go along, hopefully you will know what I want. Okay. Epithelial tissue. There are 3 different types of it. I will talk about it: muscular tissue, nervous tissue, connective tissue. Let's go over the function of them while we are here at this stage. You can print out these PowerPoints, maybe 3 of them per page, and then while I'm talking about it, right in front of it, of that one slide, you can write down, you can jot down whatever I'm talking very fast. If you don't get to catch everything, you can watch it at YouTube tonight. I tried to put it on YouTube tonight. We'll see what happens. Okay, epithelial tissue, function of epithelial tissue is protection. It protects you. Your skin is made up of epithelial tissue, so it's protecting you in a sense. The other one is secretion. Your glands are made up of epithelial tissue. Your secretion, your intestinal cells are absorption in your intestine. They absorb food, nutrient. That's pretty much, those 3 are main functions of epithelial tissue. And there are different types of epithelial tissue, and I will talk about that. Muscular tissue, pretty much they have 2 functions. One of them is movement of the animal. Right now I'm moving before you based on my skeletal muscle. I will go over different type of tissue, muscular tissue. So skeletal muscle allow the animals to move, and then you have smooth muscle, which allows in a tube materials move within a tube. For example, your blood vessels is made up of muscle and other things, but mainly muscles for now. I'm talking about muscle. So blood moves through your blood vessels. Food you swallow, it goes through your digestive tract. It's made up of muscle. So pretty much muscular tissue allows the animal movement or movement of materials through a tube. Okay, so those are, and then you see in other places like your respiratory system is surrounded by smooth muscle. Nervous tissue is the one that controls the animal. Of course, in your case, you. It controls you and coordinates you. That's all nervous tissue. Coordinates and control. That's pretty much. And endocrine system is involved in your control and coordination. Those are the 2 terms, control and coordination. Connective tissue, the name says it. It connects other tissues together. Also, connective tissue supports you. Your bone is made up of connective tissue. Connective tissue is, it gives you protection, like your immune system, your white blood cell, transportation. It transports food and nutrients, oxygen, carbon dioxide. All of that is connective tissue. And also connective tissue in fat stores. You know, your fat cells are connective tissue, so it stores energy. Am I making some sense? So those are pretty much the 4 different types of tissues that we need to elaborate. We will talk about it as the next 2-3 weeks more and more. Okay, I'm stuck. The whole thing is stuck. This thing is out. Let's see if it is still stuck. Welcome to 216. Is that right? Room 216. Okay. Turn off the computer. Turn on the computer. That's the trick. But that takes a long time to boost back up. You're not gonna like this. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead with what's in my card. And then hopefully we'll come back to this. So let's start with this. So let's go ahead with epithelial tissue. That's the first thing we're going to elaborate. Epithelial tissue, you guys, and it's being recorded. Hopefully it will be on YouTube tonight. I'm hoping. We'll see what happens. So squamous epithelial tissue, these are epithelial tissue that are flat. So that's what they call them, squamous. And they're like this. Okay, and you can see the nucleus here. Does everybody see the nucleus right there? So those are squamous epithelial tissue. Amir, how do you spell it? So look it up in your textbook. Right, other one. So squamous, the pronunciation is, you're getting it, squamous epithelial tissue. Then the other one look like a cube, but the cuboidal epithelial tissue. And you can see the nucleus, nice and round, right? You can see the nucleus, it's kind of flat. But you go by the shape of the cell. From top, you see the cells are flat. From top, you see the cells are like cube, the cuboidal epithelial tissue. Squamous epithelial tissue, cuboidal epithelial tissue. I hope you can see the differences, right? Everybody see the difference? I have to borrow another hand myself, right here. And then the third one is columnar, like a column. And look at the nucleus, it's more elongated. It's supposed to be the nucleus. You will see it on the slides, columnar epithelial tissue. So those are the three different type of epithelial tissue. Am I making some sense? And there is more, and as time goes along, we will talk about here if the PowerPoint comes on. There are some epithelial tissue in your body, like in your bladder. You all know your bladder that holds the urine, and then you go relieve yourself. I'm sorry, this class is nasty, dirty. Oh, that's what you sign up for. Is that right? I sign up to be nasty, dirty. Equals to zoology. Right? So your bladder, yes, you know your. Okay, so your bladder, in your bladder, they call them transitional epithelial tissue, transitional. It means the cells in your bladder have the ability to become columnar, squamous, cuboidal. Am I making some sense? When your bladder is full, your bladder is squamous, full of urine. When your bladder is empty, they are cuboidal, kind of columnar. Do I make sense? Those type of epithelial tissue, I gave the definition in your handout, slide description. Morning lab knows what I'm talking about. Slide description. Those cells, those type of tissue is in your lab handout. Slide description is called transitional epithelial tissue. They call the term distension. You all know what the term in English language means, distension. It means it changes the shape. Not always. Not all of the epithelial tissues in your body have the ability to do that. The cells in your small intestine, they are columnar epithelial tissue. They do not become squamous, right? I said only bladder. Listen to my examples, what I'm referring to. Okay? So the ones in your salivary gland, they are cuboidal, and so on, and kidney, they are cuboidal, and so on and so forth. Okay, so let's see if we can get back online. You guys, I hope this room does not treat us like this for the rest of the semester. If it does, then we have to do something else.
Find a new room.
So find a new room. Okay, then while that is booting up, so the other one that I would like to get at is your, and then when, of course, when the computer is turned off, you lose everything and it comes back. The other one, the other three that for now we will hang on to it, there are three different type of muscles in your body. In your body, there are three different type of muscles. The first one, okay, the first one, let's go with smooth muscle. I'll show you the model right here. The smooth muscle, if you look at it, you guys, you will see that there is no striation. They're just smooth, if you would. Okay, they're smooth and they have one nucleus per cell. One nucleus per cell. And they have no striation. And of course, you have no control over it, like your blood vessels. Can you control your blood vessels? Can you control after you swallow a food? Can you control it where to go? It will just keep following. You can go to the bathroom, put your finger in there, and throw it out. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about normal cases. In normal cases, when you swallow something, bye-bye, isn't it? Right? Okay, so that's smooth muscle. Then you have skeletal muscle, the muscle that allows you to move, the muscle that allows me to hold this model. Those are your skeletal muscle. It's not my smooth muscle. Skeletal muscle, there is striation. Do you guys see those bands? Under microscope, definitely you will see it. You see those striation. And they have the nucleus in the periphery of the cell, parameter of the cell, parameter of this room is the white board, right? Or the green board, and green board, white board is the parameter of the cell. They do not have the nucleus, skeletal muscle, they do not have the nucleus in the middle of the cell. They have it in the parameter of the cell. And they are striated, and then they are under your control. So it's voluntary, the term they use in biology, they call it voluntary. So you have control over it. And they have striation. And we'll talk about it later on, how they contract. Okay? The third one, the third type of muscle, you remember I said there are 3 types of muscle? The skeletal muscle. Skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle. I already talked about skeletal muscle. Nobody stop. Are you guys daydreaming? I hope you're not daydreaming. Are you paying attention? So, cardiac muscle. Cardiac muscle. Cardiac muscle is found only and only where? Your heart. Only and only in your heart, nowhere else. One student, one semester, a long time ago, I guess when I was a baby, was trying to convince me, Amir, no, cardiac muscle is found
in the brain.
I don't know, in the brain. It's not. Only place it's found is in your heart, cardiac muscle. Okay, now, the characteristic of cardiac muscles. They are striated, you see those little bands? They are striated. Nucleus is the center of the cell, just like smooth muscle. However, they can have one nucleus or 2 nuclei per cell. Striation, 1 or 2 nuclei, 1 or 2 nuclei per cell. And the cell, some of the cells are branched. Some of the cells are straight, some of the cells are branched. And then the cells are connected together. I think you learned it in biology 1. The cells, the cardiac cells, are connected together by gap junction. In bio 1, you studied that. It's called integrated disc. And you see it on the microscope. I hope if we get things wrong. Still trying to read my thumb drive. Your device is ready to use. Okay. One of these years. Here. Okay, what is the notes? And anatomy, physiology. Anatomy, physiology. Download. Hold on. 2 hours, 3 hours. I think the microbiology meets here before me. Is that right? They break all of these stuff. It would be a better world without microbiologists, huh? Right? No? Then you could not have cheese this morning, you could not have yogurt at night, right? Without them, it would be horrible. Life would be disastrous. Now we wish they were not here. Oh my God, this is slow. Okay. Okay, so here they are, different type of tissues, you guys. Epithelial tissue, here we go, that's the second slide. Great. So if you look at this diagram, which you do have it in your PowerPoints or your textbook, they take frog as an example. It applies to human as well. So here is connective tissue, your blood, you have your bone, and here are fibrous connective tissue, which you see some of them in the lab for lab practical purposes, and so on and so forth. Here's a nervous tissue, and I'll go over that today, hopefully. What time this is over? 2 o'clock, we're done? Okay, thank you. Well, 1:50. You have 10 minutes to go to your next class. Okay, and then here is a nervous tissue. Here is the 3 types of muscles. I went over a little bit. I'm gonna, more PowerPoints is coming up. And then you have your epithelial tissue right here. So pretty much the whole entire animal is broken down to 4 different type of tissues. Am I with myself? Are you with me? Yes. Good. Let's go. Epithelial tissue, simple epithelial tissue, it means epithelial tissue that is only one layer. One layer, your lung. Your lung, if you do have slide of it in the lab, is made up of squamous epithelial tissue, only one layer. Your kidney, your thyroid, we have simple cuboidal epithelial tissue. So during lab practical exam, if I put something on a microscope, I want you to specifically say what that is. Not epithelial tissue. You write down epithelial tissue, I will not give you credit. I want you to write down squamous, simple squamous epithelial tissue. What are the examples? Right here. Squamous epithelial tissue is found in your mouth, lungs, coelom, which you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. Inner blood vessels, which in inner blood vessels, we do not call it simple squamous epithelial tissue, we call it endothelium. I said it now, so endothelium. Endothelium is one word, you guys. Endothelium, it is in the blood vessels, but it is simple squamous epithelial tissue. It means one layer. Amir, what if there are more than one layer? Cuboidal epithelial tissue, kidneys, salivary glands, thyroid glands, blah, blah, blah. We do not have slide of salivary glands in our slide collection in the lab, but we have slide of kidney and we have slide of thyroid gland. So, columnar epithelial tissue, digestive tract, we do have them, that would be your intestine, goblet cells, or they're a special type of cell. If it is more than one layer, you guys, if you have 2 layers on top of each other like this, then it is called stratified. Do I make sense? One layer, simple. More than one layer, whatever it is, squamous, cuboidal, then it is called stratified. You might have several layers, like in your skin. You have several layers of squamous on top of each other in your skin. So still, it's called stratified. Okay? Stratified epithelial, like your skin. That's found in your skin. Okay, here are some examples. Right here is a simple squamous epithelial tissue. That probably could be lung. Then this one, simple cuboidal epithelial tissue. You see that one layer? Do not, well, you should. These are good pictures. But during lab exam, I'll show you these, I'll show you that, I'll show you this, and ask you what tissue it is. I will not show you these during exam. So you should look at the slides enough. We talked about it in the morning lab. You should look at the slides enough so you know this squamous epithelial tissue, you know this cuboidal epithelial tissue, you know it's columnar epithelial tissue. Look at the length of the nucleus. And of course, this is columnar epithelial tissue. And they're all simple. They're all one layer. They're attached to a connective tissue underneath. It's attached to a connective tissue underneath. It's attached to a connective tissue underneath. Okay, and then this is a lumen, the opening in between, so it is one layer. So you would know this is one layer, not more than one. What if it is more than one layer? Here is a connective tissue. Here on the bottom, it is cuboidal epithelial tissue, and on top, squamous epithelial tissue. Whatever is on top, you call that tissue. For example, on top is squamous, so you call this stratified squamous epithelial tissue. Look, on the bottom, these are all cuboidal, but on top is squamous, so this is stratified squamous epithelial tissue. On the bottom, it is attached to connective tissue, right here. Do it make sense? So if in the lab you see a slide that on top it's squamous, on the bottom is cuboidal, then you call it stratified cuboidal. Then here is explaining to you guys transitional, that the epithelial tissue in your bladder, that they change shape, and that's called transitional epithelial tissue. Here's another example of a, what is it, transitional, we have two transitional in here. The next one is muscular tissue. I already went over that. I told you the skeletal muscle, they are striated, they are voluntarily, they have many nuclei per cell. They have more than one nucleus, many. They have many nuclei in the parameter, periphery of the cell. Okay, those are all, and they allow the animal to move. This is all skeletal muscle, right? You all know what I'm talking about. This is all skeletal muscle. You have control over. It's voluntarily. And then you have smooth muscle, which is in a tube. They are not striated, I showed you. And then they're not voluntarily. They usually move something within a tube. Blood, food, poop. Oh, sorry. I mean, you cannot say that in here. I'm sorry, it's a biology course. Yes, I can say that. Now, the rest of campus, right now, they're having fun. They're talking about economics. They're talking about John McCain. They're talking about, what is his name? About Trump. They're talking about Trump. They're talking about the stock market going up. Here we are talking about urine, poop, blood. Oh boy.
We got the fun class.
That's what I say. That's what I say. We got fun. We are here for fun. Of course, we save people's life. What do they do? Think about it, isn't it? You are going to become doctors, dentists, pharmacists. You're going to be dealing with people's life. You have a job. They are, you just pay them. I don't know. I'm being recorded and being put on YouTube. My God. Somebody go to YouTube, watch that. Let's assassinate that. Let's hang him by his neck. Oh, no. But anyway, cardiac muscle, it is found only and only in the heart. And as I said, it is striated. It is just like skeletal muscle. Right? It is just like skeletal muscle, and they are striated. Okay, but this one, the cardiac, has one nucleus or two nucleus. They are straight or branched. None of these. See, I can ask a nice essay question. What are differences and similarities between cardiac muscle and skeletal muscle? The similarity is they both are striated, right? And the rest is different. That's the only similarity I know.
They could have more than one nucleus per cell.
What?
They could both have more than one nucleus per cell.
Right. But this one has more than two. Skeletal muscle usually have 8, 10, that many nuclei, plural is nuclei per cell. Okay? I hope I'm making some sense. In cardiac muscle, they have the gap junction, intercalated disc, right? Okay, striated only in heart. Here they are. We have a much better slide of cardiac muscle. Yeah, intercalated disc, ugly looking in here. The slide we have in the lab is much better. All of the slides we have in the lab is much better than. Here is a slide from the lab. Here are the intercalated discs. Here they are. And here is the, based on, and there is a striation right here. Can you guys see that? Striation here, and intercalated disc right here. These are nuclei, nucleus. You might be able to see some branching in here. There is some branching in here. You have to pay attention to it. But the intercalated disc, what is the name of the structure for lab particles? Okay, the next one is in nervous tissue. So I am done introducing you, all I've done, introduced you to epithelial tissue and muscular tissue, right? Epithelial tissue, muscular tissue, introduced. Next one is nervous tissue. Don't be nervous. You're all relaxed here. Have you heard that song? relax, don't do it anytime you want to do it. Have you heard that song? You never heard that song? I'm going to play it for you. You play it for me. Relax. But Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Look at it on YouTube. The name of the band is Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Just relax. Don't worry about it. Don't be nervous. Right here. Nervous tissue. Nervous tissue. Okay. There are, as I said, this morning in the lab, when I was coming to school, I heard on NPR they discovered a new neuron, a type of neuron in our nervous system. But the only one we study in here, two type of neuron we study here. This is the type of neuron which has dendrites, like a dendrite means a branch of a tree. And then this is a cell body, which is the nucleus and cytoplasm. And then you have axon right here, and at the end of the axon you have axon terminals. Okay, so this is pretty much a typical of a neuron that can transmit information. Okay, remember I said coordination and control. So these are the cells that pretty much control an organism, controls you, plus hormones, controls us. So quickly, on the model, if you would, the nucleus is gone, there are some remedies in here. Nucleus is here, cell body, combination of nucleus and cytoplasm. These are dendrites have been broken over the years. And then you have the axon, and at the end, you have the axon terminals. Okay? And underneath, this is the muscle. Okay? So underneath it is muscle, skeletal muscle in this case. It could be smooth muscle, it could be a gland, or it could be another neuron. That's how neurons, the neurons at the end of them, this is the end of a neuron. They call it axon knob or terminal, whatever they call it, different texts with different things. But at the end, they end up in three different things, either a gland, or another neuron, or muscle. Okay, in this case, in this model, it is ending into a muscle, which we will talk about it later, a little bit. I cannot give you everything today. Then you won't come back on Thursday if I tell you everything. Here's another model of neuron which we have in the lab. I don't like it too much because they cut off axon from cell body. Am I making some sense? But yeah, it does serve the purpose. Okay, in this one, nucleus, cell, cytoplasm, cell body. These are dendrites. You see the dendrites, all of these. Not these, I will talk about that. This is an axon, and of course you have Schwann cells around them. I will come back to these later on, but not today, not now. And then these are axon knobs, right, from another neuron. These are these guys. These, you guys see that? These, whatever color they are, what do you call them? Light orangish? What do you call them? Light orangish color. It's from another neuron. You remember I said there are three things that neuron end up. Another neuron, right here, or muscle, or a gland. Whatever gland you have in your body. It could be stimulated by a neuron. Okay? So that's pretty much, let's go over, and then of course, nervous tissue controls and coordinates. But here is the slide we have in the lab. Here's a neuron, and these are all dendrites. All of these are dendrites. I don't see any axon in here. Okay, and then these dots, these are astrocytes. It is spelled out in your slide description. Okay, so these are all astrocytes right here. But this whole entire thing, what is the name of the cell? It's a neuron. What tissue? Nervous tissue. What system? Nervous system. Okay, and then of course you have these astrocytes which protect these neurons. Type of nerve cells, basically there are two different types of cells. One of them neuron, structure and function unit of the nervous system, and nuclear, non-nervous systems, non-nervous cells that insulate us. I gave you an example of a nuclear, which is the astrocytes. You saw it outside of the neuron on the last slide. There were a whole bunch of dots. Those dots were astrocytes, which are a nuclear. They are last time I checked it up, there are 5, 6, 7. Now I heard in the radio there's another one, rosebud. They're nuclear. Okay, so they are support nervous functions and so on and so forth. Okay, so those are nuclei. Is there any question while I'm going along? If you have any question, please ask me. Raise your hand. Don't ask your classmates; they give you the wrong answer. They don't know any better. Or maybe they do. I don't know. But don't ask your classmates. Ask me if you have any question. Let's go. Okay, type of connective tissue. There are pretty much two different. Let's do this. Okay, they are pretty much loose connective tissue, if you would, and then you have dense. I'll show it to you. I already showed it to you. Also known as areolar connective tissue that serves as packing material found in blood vessels, nerves, and organs, and fibers that synthesize fibers like macrophages or fibroblast. Fibroblast is the name of a cell. Fibroblast is the name of a cell. In the lab, we do have them, but I didn't put it anywhere in there. But fibroblasts, they are the synthesized fibers, if you would. It's a generic term. And that's the fibroblast is the cell they use for cell cultures. A lot of times, I don't know, any of you have done cell cultures. A lot of times they use cell cultures. And macrophages, they are white blood cells, which we'll talk about it later. Okay, the dense connective tissue, they are like tendons, ligaments, tendons. Achilles tendon is between what? You've heard of Achilles tendon, that's the largest tendon in your body. So a tendon is between what? Between muscle and bone, right here, Achilles tendon. And then of course, ligament is between what?
Bone and bone.
Between bone and bone.
Basically it's tape.
Okay, yeah, and then those are dense connective tissues. And you will see dense connective tissue in your skin later on. We'll see when I talk about skin. You see that's it, and it's not a tendon, and it's not a ligament in your skin. In your skin, you will see dense connective tissue, and it's not tendon or ligament. I'm just saying, for examples, they can be found here. Dense connective tissue can be found in there. Okay, let's go. Specialized connective tissue, what did I give you? Bone, blood, adipose tissue, lymph, cartilage. They are specialized type of connective tissue. They're all connective tissue. So in the lab practical exam, if I put bone on a microscope, I bring a model of bone and say what type of tissue, then it's connective tissue. Okay, they're special. You can write down specialized connective tissue, but that's connective tissue. Or blood, connective tissue. White blood cell, what type of tissue? It's connective tissue. It is not specific. As I said, in the lab, some of the tissues, I specifically want you to write down what tissue that is. And as time goes on. Here are different type of connective tissue. This is a loose connective tissue. Here is possibly a ligament or tendon. Here is a cartilage. Here is a bone. They're all four of them in there are connective tissue. Okay, so I am done, you guys, pretty much with giving you the, if you would, did I close it? Where is it? I guess, let's go back. Handout, where are you? I'm glad we are not bounded. Questions at the beginning, you remember that? Okay, so you guys, I answered, you guys can see these. I answered 4 different type of tissue, give an example of each and their function. I did that. Is that right or not? That could be an essay question on September 11th. Okay, then explain characteristics and function of each tissue, which we did that quickly. And then what are general characteristics of a nerve bundle? We have not done that. Right? We have not done it. So let's do it. Let's go back and then quickly go back to our PowerPoint systems. Okay, there are, you open up every textbook is different. Some textbooks have 10 systems, some textbooks have 12, some textbooks have, I don't know, not 5 or 4. But, it depends what textbook you look at, but let's say 12. There are 12 systems. Nervous system, skeletal system, you already know that. Muscular system, integumentary system. What do you think that is?
Skin, hair, and nails.
Skin. Very good. We're talking about skin, pretty much. And hair and nail, yes, they are part of the integumentary system. Cardiovascular system, heart and blood vessels. Respiratory system, your lungs, trachea, digestive system. And what is urinary system? Oh, What? Bladder, kidneys, yes, your kidney, uterus and reproductive system, testes and ovaries, endocrine system, your glands, is that right? So sense organs, we will talk about that immune system. So for the lab practical exam purposes, all of the slides, all of the 30 slides, most of the 30 slides you have in the lab, you should know what system they belong to and what organ they are. Maybe one or two, I'm not sure what they are, what system they belong to or what organ they belong to. But the rest of 30 slides we have, microscopic slides, we have in the lab, you should know organ, system, and of course what tissue. For example, ovary and testes, you have to refer to your handout, to the slide description. Morning lab knows what I'm talking about. Morning lab, you all know what I'm talking about. You refer to the slide description and it tells you what is it that you need to know on that one slide. I hope I'm making some sense. So on those slides, you also have to know tissue and system as well. So you have 3 weeks to wrestle with them. Are you guys good at wrestling? Who is a good wrestler? I know you're a soccer player. You don't do any wrestling?
Does kickboxing count?
Kickboxing count, yes, you can do kickboxing as well. So next 3 weeks, you're going to all become a wrestler. Oh, I don't want to wrestle, I'll do zoology. No, you wrestle too a little bit. Okay, are you guys ready? So immune system, sense organs. Okay, nerve bundle, that's the next question in your handout. Nerve bundle, you guys. It is, if you would, it's like I used to have that cable, somebody took it, I don't know what happened to it, transferring from that building to this building, I lost, I don't know what happened to it. Have you guys seen those cables that there's a plastic wrap around them, and inside of them there's a whole bunch of wires, and each one of those wires have another plastic wrap around them? That's a nerve bundle. Yesterday I was listening to radio. They are scientists nowadays. If they want to build a building or they do something, they go to biology, believe it or not. They go to biology, how Mother Nature does it efficiently and faster. So they can build a building and learning it from Mother Nature. The people who came up with the wires, you know that? They probably took it from this idea.